This is Ella Margella, and make sure you stay tuned for the Bing Zang Zoom podcast.
Hello, you're here with T.
And Matthew.
And we are the Bing Zang Zoom podcast. So, today...
a lot of news.
Definitely lots of news, but we got some somber news to begin with. On the 26th of January, 2020, we lost a basketball legend by the name of Kobe Bryant. Unfortunately, he was killed in a helicopter crash. And, Kobe Bryant, for me, personally, he represented a lot of things. One, in my book, he's definitely one of the best basketball players of all time. But not just that, his work ethic, day in, day out. He was somebody that, kudos to Allen Iverson and all he did, but he did practice. I feel like Kobe Bryant is Lakers through and through, and if anybody that you know is a Laker fan, like my sister was a Laker fan, so therefore I was a Laker fan, my oldest sister. So therefore I was a Lakers fan, and part of my childhood growing up was watching my sister go to the court and beat guys at basketball. Mind you, she's like this big, 5'2" or so, 5'4" maybe.
I don't think that works for the audio version.
Right, yeah.
Very
but
short.
It's very short. And it's like her go-to was the Lakers. And so her generation might have been different in terms of, she liked the Lakers when Magic was there. My generation, it was Kobe. So, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant, man.
Yeah, and to his daughter as well.
Oh, absolutely.
13-year-old daughter was on the flight. And there were a lot of people who weren't famous. And there were a lot of, I think, some other athletes as well that were on there. And then even the pilot, who they haven't actually identified yet. It's a tragic event all the way around.
Yeah.
For sure.
But we like to move on, as you know, life goes on.
Let's keep it in the world of sports and jump ahead slightly.
Yeah. That's right.
So tomorrow, from the time we're recording this, so it'll already be aired by the time you're listening to this, we have the Jake Paul versus Anderson Gibb boxing match. Have you heard about this?
Now I know who Jake Paul is.
Okay.
I don't know anything about Anderson Gibb.
Anderson Gibb.
Oh, Anderson.
No, I don't. And it's big nose and backwards.
Big nose and. Anderson
wow. Gibb.
Wow.
Yeah, big nose and backwards.
Wow. Okay.
So basically what had happened was... Right. The KSI versus Logan Paul match, went everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And so they did that rematch that was on DAZN, the actual official boxing app. And that, once again, blew records and all this stuff. So Jake Paul, the younger brother, wanted to fight KSI because his brother lost, so he wanted to avenge the family name and stuff. And KSI was like, no. But I got this other guy by the same trainer who will fight you. And so it's becoming this big thing. And Jake Paul, of course, is one of the most famous YouTubers. But Anderson Gibb was this little YouTuber. But lately, the numbers have been really shifting in Gibb's favor. Yeah. So now Gibb has more viewers. He has more Twitter followers. He has a bigger audience at this point. And it's a very interesting thing because it's... Whenever you have these YouTube boxing matches, there's almost always like a good guy and a bad guy, the person you like. And Jake Paul, even though he's like coming at this from, I want to avenge my family's name and stuff, he's kind of being the bad guy in this one. Which, he's not a great person to begin with. Yeah. But, so a lot of people are more siding with Gibb. What do you think about this whole YouTube boxing thing?
I mean, I saw something recently that had me intrigued. It was called the Corporate Fighter.
Corporate Fighter, okay.
And so basically they have people that are in the corporate realm. They get them trained. I think 6 months or so. They get them trained, and they are allowed to release their aggression in the ring. Now, I'm not sure if it's like, one company like, hey, I got a problem with such and such because they didn't file my papers. Fight Club. So we so we get to go and fight it out, or if it's just one person's in one corporate realm, another person from a different corporate realm, two completely different places. They just come together and fight. Yeah. So, but overall, with the YouTube sensations fighting and with corporate fighter and things like that, I think it's good. I think it's better for people to release their tensions in this way as opposed to threatening to shoot each other in the street.
Right. I mean, what I find really interesting about it is you're taking people, because like whenever you have a professional boxer, you can look at their record, you can look at their previous matches and all this stuff.
That's true too.
Is you're taking these people who are famous professional people that you know their name, or if you don't know their name, you can look them up easy enough. And you're giving them the greatest boxing coaches in the world. You're giving them the biggest stages in the world. And so when you're going into these, you literally have no idea, what these people are capable of. So it's very much an anything goes type of match.
Right.
And you also get to see the people's progression from literally nothing, knowing absolutely nothing, to being professional boxers.
And that makes you more interested in watching it, because then you feel like you're invested in the whole thing. So
absolutely,
it's a win-win for me. I'm all for that. You put the guns down, pick the gloves up. You're invested watching somebody grow, hopefully into a decent boxer and not into somebody who's just slinging punches. Yeah, man.
I mean, these matches are always interesting. Yeah, they're always interesting, and that's something you can definitely say about them.
You think that they're ever gonna overtake some of the professional boxers? Because, I mean, more people know Jake Paul than, for example,
I mean, viewership-wise, they already have.
Oh, yeah.
They already have. If you're talking skill-wise, I seriously but viewership-wise, they already have. The first, even the amateur KSI versus Logan Paul match before they went professional blew out all the numbers for professional boxing, through the roof.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. And Jake Paul, he was being trained by Shannon the Cannon Brigg. However, they had
Let's go, champ.
Yeah, they had a bit of a kerfuffle after the Logan Paul match where he's like, you're just a hype man. You're not actually teaching us anything. And so he's training now with Sugar Shane Mosley, who...
Oh, man.
Yeah, that guy is... top of the list
he's
right there.
Things. He's probably gonna do more teaching than hyping. Like that's a complete shift.
Total 180. And they're training up in Big Bear. Do you know where that is?
No.
So it's this place in California, super top of the mountain, snow covered. So very high altitude. Training. Whereas Gibb is still being trained by the same trainer as KSI, which is Vidal Riley, who's an up and comer, 3-time winning boxing competitor.
Okay.
But as a coach, I mean, he hasn't lost any matches yet. Every single person he's coached in these YouTube ring has always won their matches.
There you go.
So it's going to be an interesting match.
Something.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting match for sure. I'm right now leaning more towards Gibb winning, but I do think it's going to be a close competition.
Oh, okay.
So
what is the weight that they're fighting at? Do you know?
That's a good question. I think it's featherweight, if my memory is correct, because there's a big height difference between the two of them. Gibb is significantly shorter than Jake Paul, so I think they were trying to match his weight.
I got you.
But honestly, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving right along, this weekend we've got the Super Bowl. Who you got?
Okay, so I'm a big Seattle Seahawks, and our division rival is the 49ers.
Oh.
So because of that, I have to root for the Chiefs. There's no going to the 49ers. But the thing is unlike a lot of Seattle fans who, would just hate the 49ers, I like the rivalry because I think it genuinely makes both teams better. I think that we feed off of each other pretty well. So it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
But I still have to root for the Chiefs out of that rivalry.
I don't have any personal investment. I feel like, I'm a Giants fan, so we're out of the game right now.
Yeah.
So are the Cowboys and the Redskins, and so I'm good. It's just the only thing that I'm riding on right now is growing up. My dad liked two teams, right? He liked the 49ers and the Giants. The reason I'm a Giants fan to this day is because I like the color blue. So I just picked between those two. Now, I recently asked him, I said, so who you going for? Probably the 49ers, right? He said, nah, I kind of want the Chiefs to win. So I was blown away. I said, oh, I guess they're not your 49ers anymore. But, yeah, there's no personal investment for me. But in that case, my dad's going for the Chiefs. You're going for the Chiefs. One thing I must tell y'all, the listeners here at Bing Zang Zoom, we stick together. Chiefs it is.
Chiefs it is. All right. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. I'm just glad the Patriots aren't in there this year.
Always a plus when you don't have to see Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Did you hear he might be switching teams? He's going.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Because he's getting up there, so he's talking about retirement, and so he's. Rumor is he's going to be a free agent next year and sign with whatever team offers him the most money.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that I truly want this to happen, but we got a good quarterback. I don't know. I know Eli's getting up out of there, and having Tom Brady come over, that would probably be a slap.
Let's just get a applause for Eli while we can.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. I'd just like to say, Eli, you're the man. You deserve this. Yes. For Eli Manning, yo. So, what about for Tom Brady? What does Tom Brady get? Oh.
That wasn't the right one. No, but every single Tom Brady, every single time that the Patriots won the Super Bowl, and this might lose us some viewers, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's been a scandal every single time he's won the Super Bowl. Just saying.
Yeah, it's Tom Brady, man. So at the end of the day, pardon me, I have allergies. Deflategate. Oh goodness,
that was a bad one.
Yeah, I know. It gets in my nostrils a little bit. But yeah.
But let's talk about Deflategate.
Tom is cool. Yeah, right. Tom is alright, man. He's a good player. He's been holding his team down for a while. He's a good team player. But at the end of the day, my Giants have 2 Super Bowl victories over Tom Brady
there you go.
And the Patriots. So if he wants to leave the Patriots because he's tired of getting washed by the New York Giants, I can understand that. Yes.
All right, what else we got?
So you give me a little bit before we started today. All right, give me a little bit on this Phoenix Jones guy.
Okay.
Right? We're talking about YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Who is Phoenix Jones and what has he been doing?
So Phoenix Jones. So who this guy is, for our viewers that don't know, is there was a thing that happened, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, where people started trying to do real superheroes, where they started dressing up in costumes and going out into the real world and trying to make a difference. Most of them did not go well, and the people dropped out. You have a few people who do very niche things, like they volunteer at homeless shelters but dress up in costumes, or there's a guy in London or UK somewhere that goes and cuts boots off of cars, and so that way the drivers can go away. So that's great. But there's this guy named Phoenix Jones, and he's the only person who's pretty successfully actually done the real-world superhero thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was a former MMA fighter who, from the story I heard anyway, there was a home invasion and he was robbed and beaten up pretty bad and stuff. And from that, he decided he wanted to be a real superhero. And he did it in Seattle, which is where I lived for about 6 years, close to 7. And Phoenix Jones he's gotten charged with assault multiple times, all these things, but he's always been found innocent.
Mm.
And the news today, apparently he was arrested because this whole time he's secretly been running a drug organization. He's been selling drugs this whole time.
So when Batman turns into the Joker, you get Phoenix Jones.
You get Phoenix Jones.
So let me put some perspective on this, right? You have a superhero, right? This guy's out here. One of the stories was what? You're saying how he came in and he punched somebody in the face.
Oh yeah. There was. I mean, there's a lot of stories, but one that happened to somebody that I actually knew is he was in a bar fight, and Phoenix Jones came in and tore the fight apart and knocked both guys out.
So you have this superhero, this guy that comes in and he saves everybody, right? Closest thing to a superhero that we have in actuality.
It's got the full costume and everything, yeah.
And the colors, nice color scheme.
Yeah, black and gold.
Yeah. Phoenix Jones. And while he's knocking people out who start bar fights, he's selling drugs. Okay? He is the villain.
You gotta
the
wonder.
Classic yin and yang. He is the villain and the superhero.
Yeah, you gotta wonder like when it started too, because I mean the article made it sound like he's been doing it for years, but did it start when he was a superhero and he started them at the same time, or did he get like disillusioned with everything?
I mean, you gotta pay. You gotta be able to pay for the Batmobile. Somehow. Not everybody's a billionaire, millionaire. You gotta be able to pay for it.
You're not Tony Stark, so
Right. Guess you gotta sell a couple drugs to make sure your suit is Teflon and stuff.
Yeah, he even had his own Justice League. Like he had they were called the Rainy Day Heroes, and he had like about 5 people that worked for him that dressed up like superheroes as well and went out and did things. The turnover rate, from my understanding, was pretty high. Like people would start and then they drop out pretty quickly. But yeah, he had his own Justice League. He had his own costume. He stopped bar fights. He had so many interesting stories that came out from that guy, and he actually was inspiring people, and and the crime rate did go down a little bit when he started. I mean, not earth-shattering difference, but I mean enough that he legitimately made a difference. But then was selling drugs.
Right, exactly. So he ran the Drugsters League. So basically he's like Two-Face, right?
Yeah.
So on one side he's the law-abiding good guy, and then on the other side he's this bona fide criminal, and
So the story of how they got him is that there was apparently like they had a lot of evidence on him already, and they more or less catfished him. There was a police officer started texting him saying that he was a girl, and wanted to get some stuff off of him. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you should look me up. I'm this famous guy."
Right.
And so, replied back of like, "Oh my God, you're a superhero? That's hot," and all this stuff. And so he went. From my understanding, he went from the Wells Fargo that has a Starbucks in it, and he went from the Wells Fargo over to 3rd and Madison, which there's not a lot in that area. It's sort of by the library, sort of by the Museum of Art, so it's not a bad area, but it's just kind of just businesses and stuff. To meet up with this alleged girl that he was going to sell these drugs to, cops ambushed him and then found all these. I think they said it was meth, but I know they said that they found him selling meth and heroin and cocaine, all 3. So, from my understanding, anyway.
So he didn't have one of those he didn't sell enough drugs to have one of the little flashbangs so he can distract everybody and get away like Batman does.
No, he did do the flashbang, but they caught him anyway. Oh. No, I just made that up. I just made that up. That's not true. That's not true.
So was he keeping the drugs in his utility belt?
I would imagine so. But we're laughing about this and everything, and it is a funny scenario. But it's also, I mean, it's sad because I'm sure that he did inspire a lot of people, and he made a difference. And in a world so bleak, we look to superheroes as our inspiration, and it's always been fictional. This is one guy that we can say, well, it's not like the movies, it's not like the comic book, but it's the closest that we've ever gotten. And then this happens.
Right. And that kind of takes away your faith, in that actually being a possibility.
And he was an African American guy, so a lot of African American people were saying that he was a big inspiration on them for being an MMA fighter and this and that. But talking about African American superheroes, there was another big thing in the news today.
Yeah.
So a certain comic book news source, which I'm not going to name because I'm going to bad talk them, they've been known to be full of it. I'll just say that.
Right.
But they have legitimately dropped a few things that ended up being exclusives, that ended up being real. But this news source came out today that said that Chadwick Boseman is being fired from playing Black Panther.
What?
Yeah, that after Black Panther 2, that he's being written out of the story, and they're going to replace him with Shiri, his sister, his younger sister, that she's going to replace him as the Black Panther.
You got to be kidding me.
I mean, again, whether we have to take the source into consideration, it might not be real. It might not be real, but that's the ongoing rumor right now. What do you think about that?
I think that would be asking to start riots. I'm sorry, but there's not that many people that can play that role to begin with.
Yeah.
And then to have done it as well as he did it, nah.
Because Black Panther is your favorite superhero, right?
Absolutely. On the Marvel side of things, and if we're talking about a singular superhero, not a group, yeah, Black Panther's my favorite superhero. My favorite group being X-Men. But, yeah, nah. That's not happening. Sorry. Nope.
Sorry, Marvel. No, it's not happening. It's plain and simple.
Even if I have to do like Phoenix Jones and sell drugs whilst being a superhero in order to make it happen, be able to pay Chadwick Boseman's fee, we'll do it.
Well, apparently they, again, all rumor, all hearsay, but apparently Chadwick Boseman is not happy about it either. Mm. That he's very upset with Marvel about the scenario.
Listen, I see why. Listen, if this news is true, if they don't CGI Denzel Washington to play this role, then that's the only. I don't see anybody else playing this role.
Well, the role is going to go out the window too.
Yeah,
because they're going to replace him with Shiri.
With Shiri.
Yeah.
No. That's not happening. Hey, Marvel, I know you're listening to the Bing Zang Zoom podcast. I know you're listening. I know you're watching. I know you're staying up to date with what we do. Don't do that. I'm really hoping that this is fake. I really hope that this is not true, because if that is true, I am definitely going to see the movie, and I'm going to be pissed off. I'm going to see the movie because it's going to have the title Black Panther.
So we've got Black Panther in Civil War. That was the first one.
Yes.
And he is a side character in that, right?
Right.
And then he had his own solo movie. And then he was in Infinity War and at the very end of Endgame, spoilers. So he's been in 4 movies at this point, 3 of them being smaller parts, 1 of them being a main character. And so the next Black Panther movie, which from my understanding is called Black Panther, The Two Kings, or The Two Kingdoms or something, that's what they're rumored is going to be his last appearance. That he's going to go out the window after that.
Listen, then all of Marvel has to go with him. I'm sorry. What is the purpose for this? I need a representative from Marvel to contact me.
Well, the rumor for the purpose is to have more female characters. Because we have, Black Widow.
Black Widow is coming out soon.
Black Widow's coming out soon. Mm-hmm. But after this, she's allegedly out of the MCU because her character, got the thing. Mm-hmm. And we have Scarlet Witch, who is, basically what happened to her. We have Scarlet Witch, who is rumored to be turning into a villain going forward. And so that just leaves Captain Marvel pretty much, and then a few of the side characters like the warrior women from Black Panther and whatnot.
All right, well,
so they wanted more female characters.
Look, if he is leaving the franchise, maybe for a little bit, maybe he can, come back in I don't know. That hurts. Okay, let's just add on without taking away. I feel like there's so many other characters that we could have in the Marvel universe that are female that we can push to the forefront of movies, as opposed to taking away the Black Panther from the Black Panther.
Yeah, that's exactly my opinion on it too. Is I think that Marvel comics and DC comics both, there's so many characters.
Yeah,
it's like, why do you have to take one away to replace them? a character that I've always really, really liked, and I know that they can't do her just yet, but is Storm.
Right. I was thinking exactly that when I was
African, super strong.
Yeah. She has a good story. Like, there's so many different avenues that they can go to with the Storm story.
And then they can even partner
Black
up.
Panther,
Yeah, Black Panther, yeah.
Like, that's, come on now. That ruined mine. Well, on to something a little bit more positive.
Yeah, let's keep it with movies for a bit.
Bad Boys for Life. Now, have you seen this?
I have not.
Okay. Well, I did go see it this past weekend.
How was it?
And let me tell you, Bad Boys for Life was a very good movie. It was about an 8 out of 10 for me. In terms of an action film, if you want to go see Bang Bang Shoot 'em Up, like, what the Bad Boys franchise is going to bring to the table. If you don't know, look up the Bad Boys franchise before you go see this movie. That way you're not expecting a masterpiece in words.
Not dialogue heavy.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of shooting, a lot of fighting, and things of that nature. But the way they did it, because a lot of people were skeptical as to whether they could pull this off. Like, Martin is up there in age, Will is up there in age.
Right.
How are they going to do this? They played off of that well in this movie. And they didn't pretend that these things were not the case. They didn't pretend to be 20 years old or anything like that. And that worked in their favor. All pluses. The action scenes were just as good. They're not... The only reason that it doesn't get a higher score is probably because it couldn't get a higher score with the circumstances. I mean, they did the best that they could with what they had to work with, and for the fact that we've seen this movie 2 other times before.
Right.
And so, with that being said, if we've seen something before, it's not gonna shock us. It's not gonna move us the way the first one did. For example, The Matrix again. The first one, out of this world.
Right.
Each one after that, it took a little bit down. Yeah. So hopefully, the new Matrix is gonna be on point. But we've covered that. Now, Bad Boys for Life, 8 out of 10 in my book. That's T speaking. And if you were to see this movie, hopefully, you'd have positive things to say about it.
Yeah, typically I don't like a lot of cop stories. They just don't appeal to me, which is why I didn't see it. But I do know a lot of people who did background work on it. I don't think I know anybody who had a bigger part than that, but I do know a lot of people who did background work. And I think I even mentioned this back in our first episode, but they talked about how Will Smith would come to the holding areas and talk to everybody and thank everybody for being a part of the film and everything. So, just because of that, it's like, man, I almost want to go support it just because I know, just because I know that he's such a good guy and he was so good to work with on that. But again, I wasn't there, so I personally can't speak to it. But I'm not a big cop story guy. But it looks good. It looks funny.
Did you watch Law and Order at all?
No, I didn't really watch Law and Order. Didn't. And I know this one's blasphemy, but didn't really like Die Hard. I don't think I've ever even finished Die Hard. Maybe if I'd watched it all the way through. I think I've only seen clips of it at Christmas time. So.
Out of the Die Hards, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna just start watching Die Hard, I know that some people might agree, they might disagree, but Die Hard 3, man. If you have never seen any Die Hard, the only Die Hard that you need to watch is going to be Die Hard 3 with Samuel L. Jackson alongside Bruce Willis.
Well, doesn't he kind of become more almost like superhuman as the franchise goes along? Like he starts off kind of like a regular guy,
right?
And then gets
a little
more
bit
and more extreme.
Because I mean, at this point, the most recent one had to do with his son.
Was it Live Free, Die Hard?
Yeah, I don't remember the name that well, but that might be it. But he's doing all these same action sequences and stuff like that. But I don't really think there's as much of a reference to his age in the movie. And I think it was a little bit more of a serious tone this time. Right. I feel like Die Hard 3 was the perfect blend between serious and funny at times. And I mean, while it was serious overall, the scheme of things was serious, but some stuff just ended up being funny.
Right.
You know? But for example, Bruce Willis's character had he had to stop something from happening, stop a bomb from going off or something like that. And so in order to stop the bomb from going off, he had to wear a sign that said, "I hate N-words," in the middle of Harlem with just drawers on underneath it and walk.
It's like a Black Mirror scenario.
So him walking through Harlem with that
Black
sign,
Mirror's a
of course,
show
he's expecting
on
him to
Netflix.
get killed.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose. The guy wants John McClane, Bruce Willis's character, to get killed, but he's going to put him through the ringer first, and if he survives those, then maybe he'll have an opportunity to kill him without using his mind instead of brute force.
Yeah, that sounds seriously like Black Mirror.
Oh,
yeah. Have you ever watched that show,
No,
Black Mirror? So it's kind of like the Twilight Zone, where each episode's an individual story and they're psychological and stuff. But I think it was the first episode. It was definitely in the first season. They have this one where this guy's like planning on blowing up the city or doing something, nefarious. And it's been so long since I've seen it, I can't quite remember. But I think he sends the Prime Minister of England this message. Is like, you have to do activities with the pig and film it, otherwise I will blow up, England. And so then he, guy's like, no, I'm not going to do this. Eventually he does it, and then it turns out there was no bomb to begin with. And then the guy releases the video online.
Oh my goodness.
So what you're saying, glasses out. So what you're saying about him having to wear that around his neck in downtown, I'm like, is this like a Black Mirror scenario, or it's just man, I'm just gonna mess with you just to get you to be bad? Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for saving England, I guess.
Yep.
Even though it wasn't in danger.
Yeah. Speaking of saving people,
right, and being in danger. The flu.
Not just any flu,
but the coronavirus, right?
Now, personally, I like coronas, so this is kind of this is a bad scenario for me.
Yeah, well, I can't say the same, but the coronavirus, it does sound like it's, a drink. It sounds like something that you drink, but then you get sick afterwards.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I guess some alcohol.
Like actual corona.
But yeah, one of the things that has been big lately in movies and all over is like zombies, right? And zombie apocalypse and getting prepared for that. And so when you think about it, the way that we might have to worry about zombies actually being a real thing could potentially be from people getting a certain strand of the flu that they carry, and they stay alive, but they are passing it on from one person to the next person to the next person. Everybody's just sick, like deathly sick, but they're not all the way dead.
I mean, when you think about it, rabies is almost like a zombie virus, right? And so there are things that already exist that can cause these type of things in humans and animals, run your mind and stuff. Remember the bath salt zombie story? I mean, that whole story was like very different in real life than the news was portraying it. But the story on the news was this guy did this drug called bath salts and went crazy and ripped this guy's face off. Now, turns out the guy was not on bath salts. He was just insane.
What?
But he had apparently walked, I think it was like 2 miles. He'd walked some long distance in Florida in the sun, and he already had some mental problems. And he got heat stroke and attacked the guy. So he wasn't on bath salts.
Basically, so he got heat stroke, and he was like, goodness, I just need liquid of some sort.
Yeah, he already had
this
violent tendencies, and
he was like, I'm just gonna chew it.
Just gonna bite this off.
Yeah.
But yeah, this virus, I mean, we're making zombie references and stuff, which you never know, it could be. I mean, we've all seen the picture of the umbrella logo. Like, we've all seen that online. Or Corona is very similar to Raccoon City. You rearrange the letters, I'm just saying. But it's actually...
Underground railroads ready.
Yeah, right. But it's actually... it's pretty scary. I mean, you look at, like, all the stuff. Australia's on fire. We've got, possible World War III on them. We've seen the memes. 2020 is not starting off extremely great. But you have to worry about, like, we've had plagues and we've had these big epidemics before. But what's different this time is we have, more modern medicine. But what happens when there is something that comes up that we can't figure out?
I mean, they say that each strand of the flu, it changes.
Yeah.
Like on a yearly basis, on an annual basis, there's
sometimes a lot quicker,
new, right?
And sometimes regional,
right?
Yeah.
So what if, we do encounter something that we don't have anything for, and like I believe it was 1918, the pandemic that took out a whole bunch of people, more than the wars at the time.
You said 1918?
Yeah.
So right before the 1920s?
Oh no, that's not good.
Also, the Black Plague happened in the 20s too. Was it the 1420s? I forget the year. But
okay, we have to come to some type of we have to have an idea as to how we're going to hide ourselves. There's going to be underground, plane, because apparently Earth is just not the place to be anymore. So. Yeah, I think underground would be easier, but maybe if we can get a rocket or something like that.
Well, I mean, what would we have to do? Would we have to border off China? Would we have to quarantine the entire country if this gets out of hand? And then there's the whole debate about what's going on between... Yeah, you're not joking. There's this whole debate that's going on between... Hong Kong and China right now, right? Because Hong Kong was an independent district of China, and that whole debate's going on. So it's like, if we had to wall off China, would we wall off Hong Kong as well? And what I'm saying wall off, I'm not talking about Trump building a wall. I'm talking about like quarantine them because of the virus spreading too significantly. Which obviously we're not at that point yet, but I'm saying like if it got out of hand,
I mean, honestly. Let me see. There's a few things on me right now that were made in China. Things in 1918, there were boats, right, traveling, and that is how sailors and military
the trade
personnel brought the flu back with them.
Yeah,
and it affected up to, I believe, 100 million people. With that being said, we got flights now. And all it takes is one person, and we have the ability to reach and touch all areas of the earth now. Like we can take a flight somewhere, 24 hours, we're there, we're good. In some of the farthest reaches of the globe. So, with that being said, I don't know if I want to get on a plane. I don't know if I want to get in anywhere but my own car. No more public transportation for me, and certainly not like getting items from other places. How are they being processed? Where's our food coming from? How is our food being processed? It's scary to think about. Are people really taking the best care of things that don't directly affect them?
Yeah.
Hey, if I can sell you this piece of paper, I don't care if it falls in a pile of crap. It's still the same piece of paper. Just wipe the crap off, sell this piece of paper, you're good.
Well, and so much of America and the Western world in general is so reliant right now on China. I mean, manufacturing, right. We already talked about that one. But also, we owe China a lot of money as a country.
Oh, yeah.
And again, like, what happens if this becomes an epidemic? What happens if it gets out of control? Again, are we going to have to quarantine China? If that happens, what does that mean? Not only for the people in the country, obviously, but what happens for everybody else? It's a scary time right now. And that's why we need superheroes like Phoenix Jones
There you
to
go.
come in and save the day.
Oh, man. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Bing Zang Zoom podcast.
Where we solved all the world's problems in 30 minutes.
There you go. Farewell.
Peace.